This week we've got to focus on nutrition. It turns out that vegans are more prone to fractures because they have weaker bones in general. And this particular study says it doesn't have to be. And then the link between red meat and heart disease that has nothing to do with cholesterol. I'm going to talk about L-carnitine. You definitely want to hear about this. We'll talk about vitamin D, which is critical. We know that, and it's often deficient, but which one to take? And then we end with the COVID-19 and monkeypox bulletin. Let's check up on COVID-19 and monkeypox. I've left some timestamps so that you can skip to what piques your interest. If you can't use it, pass it on to somebody who can. Let's get started.
The 5-Minute Checkup with Dr. Dave.
Going vegan is a global trend. There's no question about it. I do it frequently. I prescribe it to many of my patients. So more and more people are adopting a plant-based lifestyle. There was a study last week that said, although vegan dieting can result in lower bone mineral density and therefore fractures later in life, especially as we age, if one would simply engage in strength training or weight training, you could avoid the consequences of low bone mineral density, which is fractures mainly. And it sort of makes sense. There is an effect called the mechanostat effect. There's a trophic mechanostat effect that scientists call, where muscle, literally lean muscle on bone, causes bone to be stronger. It stimulates bone to fortify itself and to be stronger. That's why we tell our elderly patients, keep your muscles going, don't just sit and lose muscle mass. It's very clear that plant-based diets have less things like calcium, vitamin D, B12, the things that are really important for bone mineral density, which is why I'm constantly telling my patients, fortify your diet with things that are high in calcium, like green leafy vegetables, root vegetables, things like that, and to supplement vitamin D and B complex. But what this study is saying is, if you would just engage in regular strength training, regular weight training, in addition to your diet, in addition to your other cardio, like biking and running, that you could actually avoid losing the bone mineral density. We've known for a very long time that cholesterol that gets modified and sort of changed in your bloodstream and inflammation are really important causes of heart disease and stroke. But what we're learning now is that the gut microbiome, the universe of bacteria in your colon, are really important as well for heart disease. There's a study that was just published that showed that people who take in more or higher amounts of meat, like daily meat consumption, are more likely to change L-carnitine. Now, we've heard of L-carnitine before. L-carnitine is a popular workout supplement, but L-carnitine is a natural. It lives in our bodies. It helps the body take fat and turn it into energy. So people who take it for workouts are trying to get more energy. But L-carnitine is in the meat that you eat as well. So when you eat that meat and the L-carnitine in the meat doesn't get absorbed, it gets down into the colon. And then that's where the microbiome break L-carnitine down into a dangerous substance called TMAO, trimethylamine and oxide. Try to say that a couple times fast. But TMAO causes plaque to form. We call it proatherogenic. It means it is about to make some plaque somewhere. So here is a mechanism that has nothing to do with cholesterol that links red meat to heart disease and stroke. But more than that, I want you to be thinking about, do I take L-carnitine for workouts? Does somebody I know take L-carnitine for workouts? Because it is a potential conversion of that L-carnitine to TMAO that I'm concerned about. If you have advanced risk for heart disease, you have a family history of heart disease, you have risk factors yourself, you should have a detailed conversation with your doctor about this. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's risk-free. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's for you. Vitamin D is critical to optimal function. It has been quoted as being an important cofactor in 1/3 of all of your genes. And so one of the many things that it does is it helps your immune system. So we've heard a lot about this in COVID-19. Many people are saying, well, which vitamin D do I pick? Because there's so many out there. Vitamin D2, vitamin D3. Just a little historical perspective. Vitamin D2 was the first to be discovered, and in the 1930s, it was used to fight rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency syndrome, and it worked really well. Later on, closer to the 1950s, vitamin D3 was derived in a cheaper process. It took sheep's wool lanolin, so it's animal-derived. There's a lot of data that says that vitamin D3 is more effective than vitamin D2 in sustaining the active metabolites, the active ingredients of your vitamin D in your bloodstream. With that being said, we just said that vitamin D2 was effective. If you are vegan, if you're plant-based and you want no animal-derived substances whatsoever, you should supplement your vitamin D when chosen with vitamin D2. You may have to take, point number 2, you may have to take more vitamin D2 in order to keep your levels up. So you say, well, then what dose should I use? And you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to go say, talk to your doctor, because everybody's different. One size doesn't fit all. Check up on COVID-19 and monkeypox last Friday. There were 131,000 cases in the U.S., reported cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. There were 657 deaths on that same day. Now, last week, the U.S. declared monkeypox a national health emergency. This was days after the World Health Organization declared it a global public health emergency of international concern. Yesterday, from monkeypox, 7,510 cases in the United States. Last week, the number was 5,800 cases.